I'm Nick Baldridge from the For Amusement Only EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast. What's that sound? It's Greg and George from the SNES Podcast.
$200, a Super Nintendo setup costs twice as much as the old system. For the money, the company promises better pictures, sound, and adventure. Now you're playing with power, superpower. You're the king, I tell you! You're king!
Only for Super NES. You're listening to the SNES broadcast with your hosts, Soulblazer and George.
Operation Thunderbolt.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Super NES Podcast, episode number 74, for your listening pleasure. I am one of your two regular co-hosts, Greg, joined by my always faithful other co-host, George.
Hello!
How you doing?
I'm alright, how are you?
We could probably keep this up all night, but we better not. I mean, after all, this is a free podcast. We don't want people like shutting it off like halfway through it.
Wait, this is free? Man.
It's supposed to be. If you pay for this, demand your money back. Because we're not that good.
You're not that good. People pay for me. Nah, I'm kidding.
Yes, anyway, we mentioned last time that we were working upon trying to get some more guest hosts onto the podcast, and that is coming. We tentatively have 4 guest hosts lined up for you the next 4 episodes, which we'll talk about toward the end of the podcast. But we mentioned our backup plan if nobody was available to start to record this early. Was going to be a game I knew nothing about until like weeks ago, so I was very curious to play it and see how it was. And that game was Operation Thunderbolt, which is a port of an arcade game developed and published by Taito. Original arcade game 1988, Super NES version of the game 1994. Super NES version of the game came out in 1994. So yeah, 6 years between arcade ports. We talked about this in the Pit Fighter episode last time, George. I thought 3 years was a long gap. 6 years is huge.
Yeah.
So, but this is the last port to come out. There were other ports, the ports that came out of this game. I mean, it's like a much more timely fashion because while this game is pretty obscure these days, like I said, I never knew anything about it until recently. It was popular enough to be a very good arcade hit, and spawned a number of ports too. So, a little bit about the original game. This is, as you may possibly guess based upon the name, this is a sequel to Operation Wolf, which was a very popular, very famous, early. I'm calling it first person. I know it's not really first person in the sense that we use first person today, but you were looking out the eyes of the soldier that you're playing as.
It's first person enough.
Yes. So
there you
go. It was a side-scrolling game where basically you just went through 4 stages trying to gun down as many bad guys as possible, like on a mission to rescue hostages. Operation Wolf, as I said, was very popular, both in the arcade and also its home ports. I had the NES version of the game as a kid, loved it, played the heck out of it. I really also love the fact that not only was it a good port, they also allowed you to control the game either with the light gun, the zapper, or the controller pad, which was a nice touch. Because certain stages I thought were easier using light gun, and certain stages were easier than using the pad. So
that's what I really like about games, is being able to play them different ways. Because then, you can be that guy playing on the controller,
and then you could have a friend with the mouse, and it's like, oh, I played with the mouse, and this is what it was like.
Yeah. Yep.
And then, you know, somebody comes in, oh, I play with the gun.
Yeah.
And it's just like, wow, how many batteries did you drain on that? And it's like, well, we had to buy a warehouse full of batteries to play through this game. So
Operation Thunderbolt also offered a lot of that flexibility, as we'll talk about here shortly. But so yeah, given the huge success that Operation Wolf was, I suppose it's not a shock that a sequel was made. Operation Thunderbolt came out a year later by Taito, by 1998. Also, like the original game, it was a two-person shooting game with like two guns mounted on a cabinet. Pretty good hardware, like the time being, like when that came out too. So, sorry, but even though I was hanging out in arcades at this time, I don't remember ever seeing this game like in the arcades. George, I know that you had set off, Mike, that you'd played Operation Wolf, but you never knew about the sequel either, did you?
no, I had no idea.
There was actually a third game that was made in this franchise too, Operation Wolf 3, which came out. It came out in 1994 and was.
Oh man, I can't imagine how many people were looking for Operation Wolf 2.
And that game never got a home port, so then when we played that game, like it may be available in a main collection that's come out for a console since then. I didn't, I didn't check, but yeah, for a while, this franchise was very popular. So the arcade version of the game kind of featured a very similar plot like the original game Operation Wolf. It took place in a fictional country, which is called Kubla, which is actually Libya. I mean, the map even shows Egypt. They even shows that it names Egypt, Egypt and Nigeria next to it. So it's like, okay, guys.
Yeah.
That was very strange, but yeah. So basic plot in the arcade game is that there's a flight that's going from Boston to Paris. That's hijacked by terrorists, and two Green Berets, Roy Adams, and Hardy Jones are sent in on a discreet mission by the American military to be able to rescue them. And you go through 6 stages, in the course of that game. The gameplay perspective varies. It's different in this game as compared to Operation Wolf. In this game, you're actually behind the person instead as they move forward vertically up and down to the screen. It's very similar to the perspective. Very similar to the arcade NES game Cabal. If you ever played that either, that game's the same time period.
I have not.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Cabal is a very good game too. So you're still first person. You're still looking through the character's eyes. So your avatar never is on the screen, and you're just simply, like I said, you're just going. So you're going vertically. You're actually moving forward in this game instead, as you advance through the stage, as opposed to side-to-side stuff that Operation Wolf did. So, so like I said, this game did fairly well in the arcades. There was even a number of ports. Besides the Super NES version, the game was also ported to the Armstead CBC, which is a popular European computer. The ZX Spectrum, also a very popular
ZX.
European computer. Yes, if you're British, they say Z.
No. The name is ZX.
I'm still calling it ZX, so there.
Well, then a lot of people are going to pelt you with rocks. And I tried helping you, but hey,
It also came out the Amiga, the Commodore 64, the Atari ST, and it's also received, and the game was also included in the Title Legends collection, which is so to release for the PC, PS2, and original Xbox.
Wow. It's gained a lot of ground there.
Yes. So, like I said, most of these ports came out shortly after the game came out. I don't know why Taito decided to release this game to Super NES 6 years after the arcade game came out. It's a very curious decision to have a game come out this late. This is probably the longest release gap of an arcade game to a home port that I'm aware of. I can't think of it. Yeah, Yeah, I can't think of anything else that was longer than this one was.
No idea.
So, and also what's curious is that, not only did I know about this game, and this game is apparently uncommon because we're going to talk about eBay pricing later on. So that's probably one reason. So it's probably like one reason I never knew this game existed, like either their arcades, like the Super NES. But they also made significant changes with this game, like on the Super NES port, and I understand why they did some of those changes, but other ones some of the changes I have no clue like what they made. First start off with, this game was actually developed by a company called Austrian Tokyo, which was an in-house publisher, like an in-house developer. The title used for many of their games from 1988 to 2009. Many of the title games that they released like both arcades and home versions during this time period were actually developed by this company. So kind of saves cost. It makes it less hassle if you actually have the people who are porting your game actually work in the same building as you, I suppose. So one of the changes that they made is the actual setting of the game. The plot's very different in the Super NES version of the game, and considering the Super NES version of the game was only released in North America. It never got, as far as I can tell, a PAL or Japanese release. I don't know why some of these changes are made, but
maybe part of the story was too mature for console games. I don't know.
I suppose that's one reason. The game itself certainly had a very mature theme to it because the Super NES game still featured hijacking, and you're probably too young to remember this, George, but during the late 80s, early 90s, when the original arcade game came out, hijackings were a fairly common occurrence during that time period.
Really?
There were a lot more of the terrorist groups around back then, such as the POA, like in the Shining Star, like in Peru, like in the Basques of Spain, like in the Irish Republican Army. They did most of their how can I put this? Attempts to gain and curry political favor by hijackings and hostage taking. It's like is their bread and butter, like their activities.
Huh? I didn't know that.
So yeah, when the arcade game came out, it was very timely because there were several big airline disaster and news stories happened in the news around that time period and whatnot. And 94, it was still recent enough history that keeping a hijacking as the main theme of the game certainly made sense. It was a different era. Hijacking still happened today, but with airport security being a lot harder and tougher now than it was back then. Especially because of the events. Because of the events of 9/11, hijackings are luckily just not as common now as they used to be.
They make sure that is not a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, instead, unfortunately, what happens, like they target very young, innocent concert goers, which is a real tragedy. But anyway. So the plane in the Super NES version of the game is not per se an American flight. That flight's going from Montreal to Athens. So right away you're taking a game that's very like the arcades, very like rah America, go punch back these terrorists, etc. Presumably a plane mostly filled with American hostages to Canadians, I guess.
Sure, Canadians can do things too.
Like I said, it's very strange. I don't understand why they changed that.
That wasn't sarcasm. Just to let people know.
Right.
That was not sarcasm. I was being honest there. Canadians can do things too. Just want to let you know that. And now you know.
Yeah. So they also added...
Go Mounties. I'm sorry. Go
on. They also changed the primary bad guy in the Super NES version of the game as being the general, this pseudo Libya country, who goes on TV and makes a demand for getting certain people released out of jail, his terms not met, and blah blah blah. none of the stuff like was in the arcade game. It was just like, implied that, that's what was going on. So they spelled out a few more clearly Super NES port of the game. Also, Super NES version of the game has the plane apparently being forced down by 2 fighter jets, whereas the arcade game didn't have any of that.
Right. That's really interesting.
So yeah, they made significant changes like in the actual plot of like the home version of the game. And I don't know why. Like I said, I understand some of it. I think you're right. What you said earlier, like about wanting to kind of make it a little bit less mature than the original arcade game was, but
right.
But if this game was only ported, but if this game was only designed for the North American market, did it really hurt to leave the American theme in? It doesn't really seem to make any sense.
The United States is very hit and miss with what they want to quote unquote censor or not censor. And I feel like that's really weird that they changed that kind of stuff, and it might be due to some kind of censor they felt like they might want to do for Americans. I don't really know.
It's
but that is an interesting change, though.
Yeah, what you're saying makes sense. It is possible because the game was still designed in Japan. The home version was still entirely Japanese production. So they may have felt that making those changes would cater the game better to American game players.
I don't know.
They also may have felt that the time has simply changed in the 6 years between when the arcade game came out and this version of the game. So yeah, it's possible. But anyway, so those changes aside, the Super NES version of the game, outside of those changes, is a pretty faithful port of the arcade game. The interface is a little bit different, as far as that goes, with the actual game selection and whatnot. You also get in the Super NES version of the game. This is also a very significant change. In the arcade version, you just simply played. There was no choices. It was just simply very linear. Go from this point to this point, game like Operation Wolf was. In the Super NES version of the game, you could actually pinpoint. You could actually pick which stage to start in by 3 choices. And then it has some effect in background graphics and how many enemies came at you, what kind of enemies attacked you. I think all the stages are probably the same. Are probably the same level of difficulty. It's just pretty much cosmetic changes, like what kind of baddies came at you, that kind of stuff. So that was also like new Super NES version of the game. I think they were trying to enhance the gameplay value more and try to give the player more of an illusion of choice.
I have no idea. It is an illusion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I can tell you that much.
Well, I mean, it pretty much depends upon what stage you want to tackle first. It's probably best to take it's probably best to tackle stages you do the hardest time at first.
I just found it weird that I went from left to right, and the stages were out of order.
Yeah.
So there's that.
So I don't know if you played the arcade version also, George. Like I did.
I have not.
Yeah. So since I played the arcade version also, like compare it. The gameplay itself, once you actually get down and actually doing the shooting, is pretty much the same as the arcade version of the game. Like I said, the interface is like a little bit different. The Super NES version still preserves the 2-player option if you want to, which is cool. And as I mentioned earlier, you have 3 choices, like how you actually play the game. You can either use the controller, the Super NES mouse, like the Super Scope.
Like I said, you might go through a warehouse of batteries if you use the gun.
I do really, yeah. I tried both the gun and the mouse in emulation, which of course is obviously not a real thing, but they both seem to work okay.
Man, that mouse felt a little janky in the emulator, and I don't know if it was the way that the game was, or if it was just like this high precision mouse I have for my computer. I don't know what it is. But I had some problems, and it felt really weird to play this way in the emulator with the mouse.
Yeah. So, yeah, I felt the same way, but again, I wasn't really sure if that was an emulation thing, so that's why I didn't want to, criticize it too much. But,
right.
But yeah, so I really do like the fact that they, that they preserve the gun aspect, like in the home port. So you can, play it that way if you wanted to.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I like when arcade ports do that. I was really happy when they did something like that with House of the Dead 2 for Dreamcast. It's like, oh man, it supports guns? That is great, because, that is a full-blown arcade shooter, and you kind of need that gun for that game, because using the controller is really odd.
Speaking about the controller, what do you think about playing the game with the controller?
It's alright. It's definitely a way to play it, but not my first choice.
Yeah, I think controlling the game with the controller is a mixed bag.
Is it weird that I felt like I have more precision with the controller than the mouse?
No, I don't think that at all, because I think that the pro side using the controller, I think you're able to use the mouse. The mouse. Yeah, I get the mouse in the brain now. You're able to use the pad.
That sounds like a personal problem.
You're able to use the mouse in very small increments, so you can be very precise, in your shots, which the mouse I don't think allows, and which the light gun would be difficult to do unless you're an expert player.
Right.
On the bad side, that aiming reticle was very slow to move. Yep. Oh man.
And there's no thing to speed it up, right? There's no button you can hold to speed it up.
Unfortunately, that's just how it's programmed. So
that's so weird. They should have that. They should have hold the left. What do you even call it? The left button? I don't know. the left shoulder button.
Right.
If you hold down the left or right shoulder button, the cursor will move faster. They should have had something like that, because that would make it better.
Right, and the aiming reticle was obviously not this slow like the arcade version. The aiming reticle was also faster. They used the super scope. I noticed. So it's only with the controller that the controller that is slower. So the controller is the easy way to play this game with. It's probably the most precise unless you're an expert player, but you just have to learn how to deal with that slowness, unfortunately. I mean, it doesn't make the game unplayable. It just takes it more of a slug than it should be.
Yeah. These not everybody's gonna have the mouse or the gun, so
yeah. Right.
You gotta also make it for the thing that everybody has, which is the controller.
Right.
I'm hoping everybody has a controller. I don't know how they'd be playing the SNES in the first place if they didn't have one.
Mind powers, I guess, maybe.
I guess that is a rare form of video game control.
Right.
You insert into the second controller port, and then you can defeat Psycho Mantis.
Yeah, I love that trick.
Yeah, Metal Gear's done some awesome stuff. But anyway.
But so on the bright side also with this game, though, I think the graphics. Wow. It looks pretty good. This game looks gorgeous. This game looks almost as good on the Super NES port, just like it does the arcade version. I know you didn't play the arcade version, George, but if you compare screenshots of them side by side, they're almost the same.
I have not.
They're almost the same. They're that good.
That is really cool. I like when they take the time and try to do as much as they can with the art. Which
is one of the benefits, I think, of the fact that this game did come out 6 years after the arcade game, because not only the programmers learned to be able to
That's what they were doing for all those 6 years. They were trying to make it look good.
Not only had they been able to learn learn tricks of using the Super NES to a better effect, but the processor was more powerful than what the arcade game originally had. So they're able to duplicate those graphics very, very well. So yeah, very, very slight differences as far as graphics. As far as graphics go. This is certainly one of the best looking arcade ports I've seen, bar none.
That's good to hear.
So yeah, the graphics are very good. The enemies, they're running in front of you, very lifelike, I thought, like very detailed.
They all looked white, and that was weird.
They all use the same model, yep.
No, but it's like, wait, didn't you say you're supposed to be in like Libya or something like that?
Yes, but
is that inaccurate? I'm not going to assume that people in Libya are white or anything, but I feel like that is inaccurate and it feels weird.
Man, they probably just wanted. They probably didn't want to go there to avoid any stereotypes. So,
okay. I mean, but besides the skin color, I mean, they kind of are stereotyping because of the I don't know. Let's not get into this.
Yeah.
Let's not get into video game politic thingy mabobbers.
Yeah. Let's just say that. Let's just say that times have changed between now and then, and like it's not very fair.
Let's just say they are bad guys, and you need to kill them.
Yep. And you'll be doing a lot of killing, believe me, because they throw everything at you in this game. You have soldiers, you have tanks, you have helicopters, you have APCs.
It's very interesting to shoot down a helicopter within a whole magazine for your gun.
Well, again, Operation Wolf, you can do that. So, I mean, in many ways, this game's a pure sequel to that.
Yeah, I just find it interesting.
I mean, in theory,
hey, let's shoot down this boat with a whole clip of ammo.
Well, I mean, yeah, if you hit it just right, you probably could do that, but. I agree it's not very realistic. It's probably best not to think about it too hard.
Yeah.
And just be like, okay, but you also have a limited number of grenades that you can use, which are best to use against your hard targets. You can get more power-ups by shooting down, by destroying like certain buildings and whatnot. Not only can you get extra ammo and grenades, you can also get power-ups like bulletproof vest to help keep your to help you absorb damage, and an extra magazine to allow you to be able to carry like extra extra bullets and that kind of stuff. I also forgot to mention there is a life gauge in this game like Operation Wolf has, so you can take some hits. It's not like a one kill thing.
Thank God.
Yes. Yeah, that would have made it like pretty unplayable.
It would, because there's going to be that one guy that I missed because some weirdness with the mouse happened.
So this game has unlimited continues, and like I said before, you can play with a second person playing in. I imagine the game's probably both easier and more fun with somebody else playing with you.
Unlimited continues?
I didn't see an end to the credit limit. Did you?
I ran out of credits and I had to restart.
You may be right about that. Maybe I just simply picked up extra credits or that credits like the gameplay, that kind of stuff.
It'd be really nice to have unlimited credits.
But sound effects and the music are just basic stuff that you expect from a game of this type. Ported over straight from the arcade. There's shooting, there's grinding, that's about it.
Yeah.
So, it's not really too much to say about that.
The police are coming after you for that now.
Yes, the AC is in the window, unfortunately, now because summertime here, so I can't help the background noise.
Yeah, that would suck to not have an AC, so, hey.
So, you mentioned you ran out of credits. Did you find this game difficult?
It was alright. There was a point where I found myself getting hit a lot, and that's not good. It just got really weird for me, because it's like I was doing well, and then the further I got, the more it felt weird what was going on with the mouse. Maybe it was like a whole thing of there's a lot of stuff on screen now and it's affecting it. I don't know. But also hostages really are terrible, and they don't know how to run. They like walk away and then you have a chance of shooting them. But also when you're trying to open the door, you still probably shoot them anyway. So hey, that's a problem.
The ending of the game is even worse than that, because the Super NES version of the game, just like the arcade version, has a final decision at the end where the lead hijacker, the lead hijacker at the very end of the game is holding the pilot of the plane hostage, and you have to shoot the hijacker within a certain time frame, and if you don't do it or if you miss and hit the pilot instead, it's not game over.
Wow.
So you get like one chance to beat the game correctly, then get the good ending.
Wow.
So hostages in games are not very smart. I was having flashbacks to Choplifter and the stupid hostages who
oh no,
try to run away from you and I need to land here, you morons. But well, I mean, who can say how any of us would react in that kind of situation in real life? I mean, we might panic, freak out too. So I mean, I try to be try not to be too harsh on them, even though I'm screaming them for being stupid idiots.
Yeah. What are you doing? I'm trying to save you. Hey.
There's some basic cutscenes in the game. The beginning, the intro and the closing, and there's also like a map and a couple of the small things that you're showing between missions. But it's fine for what it is.
Yes, all the small things.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna sing. Just want to let you know, all the small things.
I thought this game was fairly difficult. I don't think it was difficult as Operation Wolf was. That game is very tough. But I think so. I didn't beat this game. I beat this game using save states.
Cheater.
I was gonna say I did not beat this game fairly, but
I think that's fair enough.
I think if you just play it enough times, then you'll get good enough at the game to learn where the enemy's coming from you, whatnot, and just get better.
I think that's how a lot of video games work.
Especially this time period.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
But, so the challenge is pretty good, I thought. It's definitely a good challenge. I mean, overall, I'm really glad I played this game. Because like I said, I had no idea this game existed. A couple weeks ago. I certainly would have played it a lot if I'd known about the game back when it came out. I think it's a very fitting sequel to Operation Wolf. It tries to do many of the same things that first game did. I don't like the graphical change about having you go up and down, moving moving in vertical direction. I much prefer going side to side, like Operation Wolf had. But outside of that, this game is pretty similar to Operation Wolf. I think I can say that if you're a fan of shooters of this type, like Cabal and Operation Wolf, by all means check this game out. Because I think you should get some. I think you can have some fun with it, for sure. I think the light gun's probably the best way to play the game, but the control of the mouse is just work for you alright once you learn to deal with the idiosyncrasies that those control devices have playing the game.
You know what I was just thinking? I never tried setting up the game with the gun. Because you use that with the mouse. I wonder how much different that would be compared to using an emulated mouse over an emulated gun with the mouse.
I don't know. That'd be kind of a.
I should have thought of doing that. I don't know why I didn't think of that.
Well, I didn't think of it either. So don't be too hard on yourself.
Yeah. But, this game was cool. It was definitely an interesting thing to play through. Is there much difference to what character you select?
No, I think it's just a matter of a skin.
Okay, that's what I thought, because I looked at it, and they bring up this profile thing when you select the character, but it's just so quick.
Yeah.
Everything looked the same to me, but, yeah, I don't see the point in being able to select a character in that game if they're all going to be the same. You might as well just call them Roar, Shooty Mans or something. It's a cool game. Playing with the mouse is weird. I don't know what it's like with the actual SNES mouse.
Right.
But maybe the controller might be the best way to play. I don't know.
Well, once you get around the slowness, because that just can't be helped, like, as far as that goes. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people consider a lot of people who are fans of the game do consider the Super NES port, problems aside, the best home version out there. I mean, it came out 6 years after. It came out 6 years later, so that's probably why. But but it's like looking at all the videos and gameplay of the other versions of the game, they all look fine. But I do think Super NES was probably the closest like the arcade version of the game. So, the reviews of this game when it came out were mostly positive. Just to use a typical example, a GamePro criticized the repetition of the gameplay and the slowness, of the aiming point, but they praised the colorful and detailed graphics and strong sound effects and concluded, quote, "This operation plays a success, generating plenty of shooting throws for media soldiers," again, quote. So, and that's pretty much a one-sentence capsule of what we've been talking about so far in this podcast.
Right.
Like I said, most of the ranges of the game were fine. This game apparently was pretty uncommon because this is probably the least amount of copies I've seen available in the marketplace, at least as far as eBay goes. Not terribly expensive, like for like a rare game. I think just the fact that just because a game's rare doesn't mean it's in high demand. So,
right.
and obviously based on these prices, this game is not in high demand. But there are only 6 copies of this game currently listed on eBay. Like yesterday. About 8 copies of the game that sold within the past 90 days. And it's definitely low on both those counts for Super NES games covered so far in this podcast. So, I mean, it's out there, but not too many copies. Card-only prices sold anywhere from $24 to $40.
Wow, really?
Yes, some shipping included. CIB, two of those examples that sold recently, like with CIB, one was $51, like another one was $74. The $51 had a pretty bad box, which is why I think it's sold for cheap. And there was even a 0 copy of this game sold recently also, for a relatively modest $280.
No, yeah, relatively modest. You're correct. Everybody, get off your butts. Go buy this game for almost $200.
Well, compared to other sealed copies, like other games that have gone out there in the past.
I guess.
So yeah, you want this game. It's like to be a little bit expensive, but I wouldn't call these prices crazy.
$20 is. Would you say like 24 to?
$24 to $48.
I think I might go maximum 20 on this.
Yeah. So, Well, like I said, you want to play the original arcade version. Like it is available. It is available as part of the Title Legends collection, and there's always names. So, I don't know if Title Legends version supports Light Gun though. Probably not.
I think that would be a lot of programming work.
Yeah.
So I doubt it.
But, so, I mean, if you're a shooter fan, like you enjoyed Operation Wolf, I think $24 is an okay price to pay for this game. Because it is, because like I said, it is, it is fairly uncommon. Taito apparently did not make a big print runner like these games, so I can imagine the price can increase as time goes by. So I guess if you want the game, grab it now.
Or forever hold your peace.
Right. So one other bit of interesting trivia. George and I talked about this like a little bit more like on Mike before we started podcasting, but something may be familiar with a movie out there which also has the name Operation Thunderbolt. they're not really connected, except in some very like tangible ways. The movie deals with the real life event, a real life event that happened in 1976, like of an operation codenamed by the Israeli Defense Forces, who did a hostage rescue mission at the town of, I believe it's pronounced like Entebbe, but the country of Uganda, which is a small country in Central Africa. So they actually called it Operation Thunderbolt, and there was a movie made after that, depicting the, like a dramatization, like depicting the events of the raid. So, so there's some. So you could probably say that the game developers were inspired by the movie, like a very loose sense of the term, but because both of them involve rescuing hostages, both of them take place in Africa. Both of them involve special defense forces. Both of them involve like a hijacked plane. That's really about it. It's really about it as far as the similarities go. I've not seen the movie. Taking a quick look at it online, the reviews of it are pretty good. So I may have to check it out.
Sure.
So. Yeah, I think I pretty much said everything about this game that I could think about. It's certainly a fun game. I certainly enjoyed my time playing it. I think the long-term value of this game is probably is limited, but I think for playing in like short bursts, it's pretty fun. I probably will go back to this again like later on in the future. It doesn't surpass Operation Wolf for me, partly because Operation Wolf has very strong like nostalgia value for me at this point, but it's a very worthwhile sequel, I thought. It's not quite as good as Operation Wolf, but still a very good game in its own right. And I certainly think that, like I said, anybody who enjoys shooters of this type is definitely recommended to check this game out, because because like I said at the beginning, this is an uncommon game that skips a lot of people's notice. So
sometimes nostalgia hurts.
It does, yep. But I mean, Operation Wolf, I still find it to be a fun game today. I still play that game from now and then also. But but it certainly helps with my enjoyment of this game, I think, because I'm not very sure if I would like this game as much as I did if I didn't have the history. So. The graphics in this game definitely worth checking out at the very least, because they're gorgeous graphics. Probably some of the best graphics I've seen in the system. The real biggest knock to gameplay is just that slow aiming target. Once you get used to that, though, it's not that bad. That's pretty much it for me as far as final wrap-up thoughts. George, how about you?
I basically kind of just did my wrap-up thoughts before. It's a cool game, and I feel like you should try it as many ways as possible to get the most out of it and see which is best for you.
Yeah. I'd also really like to play the game with somebody else at some point.
Oh yeah, there's a two-player thingamabobber.
Yep. Yeah. The Super NES version of the game preserves the two-player co-op that the arcade game had, and I'm sure, like most games, this game's a lot more fun when you play with somebody else.
Oh, I'm sure it is. So,
I think as far as shooters, I think as far as shooters of this type of the Super NES, this game is pretty good. It's certainly better. It's certainly a better shooter than like T2 or like oh god, what was that arcade game that like arcade group? I'm sorry, that band did. They're drawing a blank on like right now. Damn it! There was an arcade game.
Are you talking about the an Aerosmith?
Yes,
shooter?
That game.
Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank on the game right now. I'm sure people out there are screaming with their iPods, but that game also is not very good. So yeah, I mean, as far as shooters go, this game's probably one of the better ones to play on the system.
I think you're right on that.
So And by all means, George, you definitely should check out. You should also go back check out like Cabal like on the ES. That game has a lot of similarities. I think there's as far as this one goes. Just that the main difference is in that game you go screen by screen. It's like them having to scroll. Once you open up enemies or killing people on the screen in Cabal, it just advances to the next screen. So, but beyond that, the two games are very similar.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, thank you always for tuning in to listen to us. We very much appreciate it, and hope we gave you some information and education like an obscure game that probably most of you out there like not heard of either. So, if you have any questions, comments, feedback, we very much would like to hear from you. You can reach us on our Facebook page, which is over 900 likes at this point, by the way. So many things out there, everybody out for that. And you can also email me directly if you want to at the SNESpodcast@yahoo.com. George, besides those means of communication, like how can the people that out there get a hold of you?
You can find me on Twitter. It's at Mr. Chief at MISTORCHEEF. But on top of that, I do other stuff in this podcast. I do other podcasts. First off, Master System Masterpieces. That's a fun podcast. We talk about Master System games. Greg and I do PlayStation Power. That is not a family-friendly podcast, but we talk about PlayStation and PlayStation 2 games. And then there's the Box Fort, where everybody, it's a no man's land. Not family-friendly. Just not important. We just talk about things. It's all right. But on top of that, I do other stuff. If you take my Twitter handle, if you want to go on YouTube or various streaming sites, you can find my content. It's always fun to do some kind of video when it pertains to video games.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. We are also a proud member of both the Throwback Network and Retro Junkies, where you can find other great retro-themed podcasts, both gaming and non-gaming related. And you can also find this podcast on iTunes. Next time, we are very pleased to have some special guest episodes coming up. Hopefully everything goes according to plan. Of course, real life being what it is, who knows? But if everything works according to this plan, we should be having joining us for the next episode of the Super NES podcast. Somebody who's not been on this podcast for a very long time, so I'm very pleased to have him back. The wonderful, awesome William Culver, like aka Willie.
Yay.
Who does so many podcasts I can't keep them all straight.
I know, right?
Let me try real quick. He does the ColecoVision podcast. He does the Channel F podcast. He does Toy Tune podcast, which is a great podcast. From like the old toys. He does Atari Visions, which focuses upon ports of games between the Atari 2600 to the ColecoVision, like the Intellivision. Let's see. I know. That's only 4. I know there's more. Oh, he also does a Coleco spin-off podcast talking about the dedicated consoles that they come and released over the years. So that's 5. And he also does Metrics Radio, like a Rick. So that's 6 podcasts right now, and I think that's it.
Jeez.
Yeah, I thought you did a lot of podcasts, George. He certainly has both of us beats.
I don't know how he does it, because he works, I work, everybody works. But, I don't know.
He also has a pretty active YouTube channel.
He does. It's crazy. It's some good stuff, though. Please check him out. Arcade USA.
Definitely.
Some great stuff he does.
So, Boy's a great guy. So we're So we're going to be like very, very pleased to have him back on the podcast next time. He has chosen the game for us to talk about. We're going to be talking about Pack Attack, which is a Tetris-style puzzle game with a Pac-Man theme to it. I've not played it. It should be interesting. The screenshots look interesting.
I know nothing about this game.
Like I said, it's just basically a Tetris clone except with Pac-Man stuff.
Can't wait. Does it have a Pac-Man inspired Tetris theme?
I doubt it.
Dang it. 0 out of 10.
That'd be a weird ass game.
You alright?
But anyway, yeah. So we should be having. So stay tuned. We should be having further guest hosts coming on in the podcast after that. Everything tentatively planned like right now, but don't want to announce it too far in advance. I'll just say that. I'll just say this. Just that all these guests have previously been on the podcast in the past, so they're all going to be like returning guest hosts, which means they obviously tolerated us enough to want to come back.
Or we just paid them a good enough amount of money.
I'm not making any money off this, are you?
Well, no, we're paying those people to come back, right?
Yeah, sure, okay. Your check's in the mail. Yep.
But it's not. Never mind. Anyway.
Alrighty, so that's it for this episode. Thank you again, always, George, for joining us. And for coming on to talk about this stuff with us. I very much appreciate it. Any final witty thoughts you want to close the podcast on for our listeners out there?
Spaghetti.
Yes, have some spaghetti tomorrow. It's a good dinner.
Have some spaghetti so you won't regret it. Okay, now we need to end this podcast.
All right, goodbye, all. Thanks.
Bye.
Nintendo controls 80% of the video market. But no matter how you play the game, or which game you play, things definitely have come a long way since Pac-Man. Now you're playing with power. Deep power.